Okay, welcome back. And our next speaker is Grant. Hi, Grant. How are you doing?
Hello there. I'm actually not doing too bad this morning, so you can see the mess behind me. One of the
That's
functions of
okay.
working at home.
You know what could be an advice? You know what I did? I just changed my table. So now you can see the wall. But if I change it back, you will see the mess.
You don't want to see anything. Everything in this room is a mess. It's okay. No one can worry.
Okay, that's good. So I'll give you the floor, share your presentation, and it's your time.
Okay. Give me just 1 sec and we'll get this going. Hopefully you can see that presentation now. I'm going to launch it. Great. All right. Let's start the slideshow and let's get going. It wants to start. There you go. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name's Grant Simmons. I'm the VP of Performance Marketing at Homes.com. In case you hear some slight accent, I live in America. I'm an expat Brit, and I've been here for about 30 years. So today, I'm going to teach you some stuff that we learned. It's all about learning from the past to be better in the future, or as we say, not just better, smarter in the future. Quick public service announcement, be smart, wear a mask. There you go. All right, enough of that, no politics. So let's just get back. Homes.com. We are really smart people. All right. I'm not joking about that. This is not a diss at the company. What I'm telling you today is exactly what happened. We made some big mistakes, and please learn from us. And that's me, only relatively smart. A little bit about Homes.com. We're a large real estate portal, 110 million pages, millions of visits a month, hundreds of millions of page views a month. This is when I joined the company in 2014. We were under a Google penalty at the time, managed to get them out of a Google penalty. Everything was great. It was a team effort. Like I said, smart people. We just made some mistakes in the past. So in 2018, we decided to launch a new design, not just a new design, new platform, new features on one of the largest real estate portals in the US. There were some big lessons learned. You can see some of those lessons in that diagram of traffic. Obviously not great. The good news is we've been smart enough not to do it again. You might notice there's a little theme of prehistoric things here. And I'm going to go through a few of the things that we learned to hopefully help you guys with the CRO, UX, some SEO, a lot of knowledge, thought, and process. So the first things we learned: targeting, defining and UX aligning with audience. Testing, UX, opinion versus data versus what I call shiny objects. Timing, our preparation of production and push. And trust, how we lost it and how we got it back. Now, they're the most obvious lessons learned. There was lots. And when I say lots, I mean a lot. So let's step through this, okay? Let's go. Targeting. Do you know your audience? And do you think you know your audience? So we started off, we knew our audience. I mean, who were our audience? Well, our website showed that we had an older demographic, 54 plus female, and on-site polling, we used Hotjar, just to give an idea of how old people were, what they were looking for and everything else. So that was great. These were the known-knowns. What we decided to do was, hey, maybe we don't want to go for the old people. Maybe we want to go for the young people, expand our audience. So we decided to target young home buyers. Why did we do that? Because it was known as the largest demographic, Gen X, millennials. They're the folks that have grown up, with people like me telling them what to do. And essentially, our agency recommended we go after this target. The industry buzz was all about millennials and Gen X being the biggest home buy market. And so, first mistake, we didn't trust our own data. And that sounds funky. Why should you always go after your own audience? But, new audiences, sure, you can go after new audiences, but it's really more of an incremental improvement to UX. It's sometimes better, as opposed to assuming that older people or different demographic of people are going to like what you introduce for younger people. So I call that targeting UX to users. This was very much pitched by the agency and very much taken by us. It was, we don't want to be in the sea of sameness. What did that mean? It meant that a lot of our competitors and us look very, very much alike. You can swap out a logo, and it's pretty much the same site. I think the key thing here is not to make assumptions on UX. And don't make assumptions just because everyone else is doing something. You should try something different. This was that UX sea of sameness. Yeah, different pictures behind, but basically there's a search box. And people, when you go to a real estate site, have a search box. So that competitive analysis was everyone looks the same. So really we said, let's not be the same, let's stand out. So we came out with some new interfaces, new UX, and we tried it. And our target audience, when I say our target audience, that millennial guy, that Gen X, young Gen X, said it was amazing. And this you can see is a different kind of interface for search. It was a pull down, a drop down type interface. And we did some testing, and the results were everyone understood the difference and everyone chose the sentence based search. All right, so we're really happy about this. Revolutionary, amazing. So was it really our target audience though? Because our demo targeting was wrong, no one ended up using it. The comments we got is, where's the search box? And this is confusing. This was one lesson in UX targeting to the right audience. So our thing was, we rolled it back, lesson learned, targeted UX matters, targeted UX to the right audience, and obviously not making assumptions about that audience. And now we have a search box. Now, does that seem obvious? Yes, but remember, we were trying to go for a different targeting, a different audience. We thought we could not ignore our current audience, but we could certainly, help bring them along, bring them into the 20th century. It was obvious in retrospect. So that targeting UX to users, that innovation of UX from a sea of sameness, we didn't realize was actually the sea of familiarity. So sometimes it's not good changing something to hope you get another audience. You've got to bring them along slowly, and you attract other audiences as well. Now, nothing is an absolute in CRO, UX, SEO, performance marketing. So obviously your mileage may vary, but don't just change everything for the sake of changing it to attract new audiences. Really, the targeting should be well defined by who you have, and incremental improvements to UX can help. So how did we find out this didn't work very well? Well, we did a lot of testing. Now, we did a lot of testing. Yes, because testing is about the user, stupid. It's not about the stupid user. Unfortunately, we decided on our wrong target audience. Don't judge us. It really was a challenge, but we wanted to go for what we considered to be a larger audience, a new larger audience. We asked the agencies to conduct some user testing for some new features they pitched. So we wanted innovation and we wanted differentiation. Remember, we wanted to break out the sea of sameness. We wanted to do something really cool, something that was for this mobile generation, this millennial / Gen X who brought up with mobile devices. We wanted a mobile first experience. At the end of the day, fire is good, right? Something new. Well, what we learned is that fire also burns. And I want to introduce something that you guys should all be aware of, and if you're not, it's a great refresher. Statistical significance. We're smart people, right? We know what that means. Testing is the key to understanding, and our agency presented the methodology to get statistical significance. Pre-screening. This was our guys, our target, very spot on, likely homeowners, familiar with websites. It was all cool. This was the testing regime. We had mobile and desktop. We had homepage, SERP. We had different flows. It was really well planned. The challenge is, and hope someone noticed, 16 total tests. 16 total tests with lots of different scenarios. Now, we're smart, all right, but we trusted our agency, and this isn't an agency diss, but there was only 16 total tests. All right, so just to get an idea of what statistical significance is, it's whether we can get enough results, which is likely beyond chance. So it shows some factor of interest. And most statisticians agree that the meaningful result is 100 to 1,000. Even with a population like the US, even with a home buying population like in the US, which is around 15 to 20 million kind of interested parties a year, 1,000 can generally get a good result. Now, I just want to take a quick brain break here. This story isn't about a bad agency, and it's not necessarily about us not being smart, because everyone in this scenario, everyone in this story is smart. But it was about implicit bias. We loved the ideas, we loved it. It being the new design, the ideas, the concept, the innovations. We really were bought into this. The challenge was we based our assumptions and decisions on emotion, not necessarily real valuable data. And when I say we loved it, we really loved it all. The design was brilliant. The ideas, the concepts were brilliant. The idea of breaking out of a traditional mold, of having different features and functions that we thought millennials, Gen Xers would love, our target audience would love. And we loved the feedback we got, even from the one of 16 users. It's exceptional. It's more refined and sophisticated. It's brilliant. Now, just remember that there's implicit bias in how people review as well if you get a small sample set. So really, we got everything we wanted. We're like the emperor with no clothes. Everyone says how nice our jackets are. We really didn't do enough and didn't get significance in our testing. And so burn baby burn. I'm not trying to get back to the disco inferno. The key findings were laid out, and it was pretty cool. And then when you look back in retrospect, you read between the lines, implied functionality, unsure, nuanced differences, often confusing. Some remain confused. Implied function. Now, we incrementally improved on this, but with such a small sample set, our UX was kind of doomed to failure. I just know how it implied. This is a really nice way of saying suggested but not directly expressed. That's like having buttons in an elevator, in a lift, that have no numbers on, and it's suggested or implied that the buttons at the bottom go to the ground floor. That is not great UX. That is letting people think too much. That is let people make too many decisions. We really want to keep it simple. And we really, lesson learned, let the data decide. Not only that, don't let emotion rule it, be objective. And what we also find is simplicity is better than shiny. Meaning great, fantastic designs doesn't mean great UX. You really have to run it by your users. You really have to make sure they understand it simply. And I'll come back to simply. So let's do a quick recap. Bad targeting and bad testing, potentially bad outcomes. Well, probably guessed it wasn't the great outcomes. I showed the diagram at the beginning. So let's talk about timing. We had a lot of pressure. I say that nicely. We were running behind because we were trying to get this right. There was a new platform, everything else. And really the question kept being asked is, are you ready to launch? Are you really ready to launch? And I want to underscore those challenges that we had. There's lots of smarts involved in this, a lot of very smart people working day and night, lots of great work being happening, and a lot of buy-in to those ideas and concepts, a lot. So we are the emperors with no clothes, wondering why everyone might be looking at us, and everyone in the end goes, no, it's really great ideas. There's lots of cost involved that we didn't want to keep compiling cost, and lots of pressure from competition, the business agency. We really wanted to get it done. So just to get an idea of where this whole load of smart people were, and I myself included, we were 100% focused on go to market. What would we do? We understood it wouldn't be perfect, and we had a launch and test and iterate mentality. From an SEO standpoint, we were changing technology, we're changing platforms, we're changing all the URLs, essentially getting it exactly where we wanted. There was lots of moving parts, like redirects and everything else, and lots of sleepless nights. But at the end of the day, because we had this buy-in, because we all agreed this was fundamentally different, never been seen before in the industry, we knew it wasn't going to be perfect, but we were excited, we were hungry, everyone wanted to launch. So we launched. And this is kind of what happened. And let me leave that there just for a moment, because there were the first week or 2 weeks, we had platform failures, we had a lot of challenges. We saw traffic drop, we saw engagement drop, we saw conversions drop. It was not a happy time. Now, why was that in retrospect? Incorrect user targeting, UX targeting, a completely new user experience that people didn't have any familiarity with, pervasive platform failures. It was challenging, JavaScript framework, lots and lots of SEO issues, and our launch day was not a good day. In fact, it wasn't a good month, and it wasn't a good year. So the real big lessons learned from this when you're making UX changes, ideally incremental is always better. And it's tough when you're launching not a new brand, but you're launching a brand new website. You want to be innovative, and you can't actually build on what you have. Timing is all about these following things. It's basically everything. So the lesson learned is, and this is a big lesson learned, there are no deadlines. Yeah, you might be told there's deadlines, but there shouldn't be any deadlines. There is only the time to get it right. So that's the big thing about timing, is you make sure it's right. You make sure you're testing the testing. You make sure that everyone in the organization is doing the testing, and you make sure you have the time to get it right. And there is always time to get it right, because getting it wrong, as I am hopefully teaching you, is not a great experience, not a great place to wake up in the morning. So a lot of hard conversations ensued. Like I said, we're smart people. We realized that this was a challenge. And so, we had a lot of sit down conversations, and actions happened immediately, a lot of urgency. A lot of these conversations weren't pleasant, but they're definitely necessary. And there was a certain mantra that rang through my head, which is, life is not about how many times you fall down, it's about how many times you get back up. That was a famous teacher in Los Angeles that said that. But really it was about, okay, we screwed up. We made a mistake. Now, how do we fix it? There wasn't much in the way of, let's have some kind of look back and see how we could have done it better. No, our immediacy was we had to get it fixed. And why did we have to get it fixed? Really quickly. And how can you get things fixed really quickly? The reason we had to get it quickly is we actually, our number 4 is trust. We lost user trust, and we lost Google trust. It might seem like user trust is the most important thing, but really the Google trust is people couldn't find us. So that was a big challenge. So, I'm going to tell you how we got it back, and you can get it back or avoid losing it in the first place, obviously. So what was the challenges again? I'll keep repeating some of this stuff just to make sure you understand. We tried to change user behavior. Now, you can change user behavior, but it's not an overnight thing, and it's not cheap. And you have to really have something that is simpler. And what we tried to do was not easy. It wasn't a great idea, and it's not a great idea to try and change user behavior most of the time. Like I said, we've got to find a way of changing it, but introducing it so that it's simpler. More innovation does not mean it's more complex. It's got to be simpler and more intuitive. We thought it was. We learned. There are so many more hard conversations, and still not pleasant, but still necessary. And we basically went back to the drawing board. Now, we had a platform, we had a website, we had something out there. We couldn't roll it back. That was one of the challenges from a platform standpoint, and from changing the URLs. We couldn't just roll it back. They're established. It took a while for us to get all the ducks in a row, but we had a strategy, a central theme, and that was put the user in the center of everything. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we did is fix everything for Google. Even with the user first, Google is just a really picky user, and if users can't find you, then it didn't really matter. And we dropped a lot of keywords, we dropped a lot of rankings. We couldn't be found as easy. So we had to fix some of the key core platform issues so that Google would actually find us, start to like us a little bit more, and send us the traffic. Doesn't matter how good your CRO is, if you don't have traffic, it's not going to work as well. Then we removed everything that wasn't used. Obviously, we could see what was being used of our new shiny functions. There was a lot of really, really cool stuff, but it wasn't being used because obviously it wasn't useful. it wasn't useful in the process. Now, like I said, we introduced some really cool stuff. It was a new map experience. It was, you can see in this center image, we did programmatic descriptions, charming and spacious 4-bedroom bungalow, colonial pace, as opposed to just an address, which our competitors were doing. We had a different filtering system whereby you can do nice to haves and must haves. It was really, really cool. I'm not joking. It was innovative. It was brilliant. We even had something where you could scan a picture of the house you liked and we would bring up similar homes. Now, snap and search, brilliant. Once again, really, really cool with a good UX. All right. So it wasn't just about having something that was not used. It wasn't useful. And so that was the big miss that we have. And it doesn't matter how good your UX is. And other people thought we had a really good UX as well. Like Forbes said it was brilliant, but users didn't. So it's great if you get the coverage. It's just someone else saying the emperor's clothes are really cute. But really, if you're a user, you ended up not using some of this functionality. People were looking for a search box, didn't find it. Something simple like that. So innovation was a challenge. UX was a challenge that followed on from that. So remember, users didn't like our stuff. We did. Forbes did. Lots of other publications did. The industry did. But users didn't. So ouch. Users are everything. For us, user first meant targeting to the aligned users. So follow the data that we have, the data that of who was coming to our site. Thorough testing, which was listening to the data, actually not letting emotion drive it, but actually listening to the data and satisfying the user. I heard the gentleman just before talking about satisfying the user. That was the key thing. It wasn't about ourselves. It wasn't about whether we liked it. Although, most of the people in the company have bought homes, it wasn't about that. It was about making sure the user was satisfied. And when I say about everyone in the company bought home, we actually had what we call eat your own dog food, which was all our product people, all our developers, all our salespeople, everyone else was inspired to use the new site and basically give their feedback. Now that increased the number from 16 to hundreds. And so we made it a goal that everyone is really a tester in the company. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't have people from outside. In fact, we did do user testing at usertesting.com. We did get other feedback, but it ended up that everyone should be a tester of your own product. Because if you don't like it, no one else is. And you should be able to give free, honest opinions based on what you see in your own site. So the user first was also about finding the points of friction. They didn't understand a lot of what was happening. So we removed the point of frictions. And there was lots of them. It wasn't just about the new features and functions and brilliant innovation. Sometimes it was simple as a button. It was in the wrong place or didn't say the right thing. So although we thought we had made all the right decisions, we really focused on removing all the points of frictions. And step 4 is we give the users what they want. So users wanted to just get to a home search and find homes that match their criteria. And that was really our guiding principle, was to do something simply smarter, with an emphasis on simply, because it's good to do things smarter. We thought we were really smart, and we are smart people. I want to keep underscoring there was no lack of desire, passion, understanding and intelligence to do the right thing, and we thought we were. There was a lot of mistakes made because we weren't as smart as our users, or maybe we thought we were smarter than our users. But at the end of the day, we focus now on simply smart, and it drives everything we do. And simply smarter means about satisfying your users, and Google is just a very picky user. I'm flying through this, and I hope we got time for questions at the end. At the end of the day, this story is really simplified and can be simplified. Good UX can build engagement, and we certainly hoped and planned that a better UX would build engagement and so help us in this site. But great UX builds companies, And great UX is UX that aligns with what your users understand in a simple way and gets them really quickly to what they need, what they want, that aligns with your business goals. Now that is UX. CRO is about making sure that your business goals are met. And SEO is, and paid search and any other traffic source is about driving folks to the site so they can have that experience, and driving the right folks to the site so they can have that experience. And we hope that if we build great UX, and we certainly improved so much by simplifying what we had, getting rid of what wasn't useful, and really focusing on what the user needs were, that you can win back some Google trust. So you can see here, 2018, we saw that massive decline. Go around to February 2020, this number of keywords that we're ranking for, we're almost back to previous heights. And certainly from a standpoint of number of keywords we rank, we are back. We're just still improving incrementally, where we rank 1 to 3 and where we rank 4 to 10. So it's an ongoing journey. Winning back Google's trust, as you can see, took us almost 2 years. That is a lot of hard work, a lot of smarts, a lot of focus, and like I said, something simply smarter. So let's go back to the things we learned on all this. Apart from cavemen and women can be fun. Put the user at the center of everything. Really key. And it should have been how we started, and we should have really understood our user better, and we should have targeted the user that we already had, as opposed to expanding too much, too fast, too quickly, and make the assumption that everyone else would come along with the ride. Know who your users are, not who you think they are. That really comes down to beyond polling, beyond the analytics you have, really talking to people, and really finding out if they use you, why. If they don't, why not? What would convince them to use you guys? It comes down to intent. It comes down to familiarity. It comes down to the bottom line of who they are, what they know, what their friends know, who their circle of friends are, how they're influenced by, in our case, agents, to really know the users, and not rely on who you think they are or might be. Test your UX with 100 to 1,000 of your user cohort, or the tool's statistical significance. We obviously always try and test poll with 1,000 to 2,000, just to make sure we have great data that's representative with a margin of error plus or minus 3 to 6%. We really focus that now. This is lessons learned, but never do anything without 100 people taking a look at it and giving feedback and opinion. And that can be 100 internal people. Trust the data, not your emotional gut. We are very smart people. We trusted our gut, we trust our emotions. We ignored somewhat the data, or we didn't dig enough deep into the data. So really trust the data. Take the time to get it right. I say there is no other timing. There is only the timing to get it right. And I say least imperfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Least imperfect is the enemy of good enough. So that's not right. Perfect is the enemy of good enough. Sometimes it takes 95% of the time to get the last 5% right. You can launch and iterate. You can launch and fix. You can launch and get insights. But least imperfect is a way to actually launch so you can get those insights. Perfection is an almost unattainable goal. So take the time to get it right. Eat your own dog food. We talked about testing. Everyone should be using your product if you have a product. Everyone should be using your website if you have a website. And by that, everyone within your company. So if you're not using your website, why not? Because if I'm searching for a home, the first place I go to is homes.com. And why? Because I think it offers a simply smarter search experience. And that's not just me saying the company line. That's our goal, and that's what we've tried to do. So at the end of the day, eat your own dog food. And if you end up, your staff, don't use your product, then obviously that's a flaw. You have to fix it. Google is just a picky user. That's really interesting. I know a lot of people say you should optimize to Google. Google's just a user. It's a picky user because they see a little bit more than some users do. But satisfy your users. Generally, you will satisfy Google as long as you have a great platform long as you're serving up pages, as long as they can see the pages. And a simple UX is a smarter UX. Remove friction. Friction points are where you see people dropping off in your funnel. Removing that friction is often the best advice, and eating your own dog food is normally the best way to find it. And satisfy your users simply. I like to say intent to content is how we connect search users to websites. We have to match their intent, and having a great user experience and satisfaction is about the speed of that intent to content. So can we get people to be satisfied as quick as possible and as easy and as simple as possible? That's really the lessons we learned. And I'll leave that up there for a sec and just repeat them. User first, know who your users are, test with the right amount, trust your data, take the time to get it right. Internal testing is key. Google is just a picky user. Simple UX is normally smarter UX, and satisfy users simply. And that's simply smarter. And with that, I'd like to say thank you. Hopefully you've learned a lot from us. As we've recovered, it's been quite a fun ride, and it's good to see us back on top with some smarts and some good lessons learned. So thank you. And I'm going to stop sharing and back to Sophia.
Okay, yeah, Grant, thank you so much for sharing and for such a cool storytelling presentation. I really felt there were a couple of things that really inspired me, because all of these cartoon-like figures that you used, they reminded me of, I think there is a movie or a cartoon that I used to watch when I was a kid, like people living in caves and they are trying to solve some real stuff, life questions. So yeah, that was really nice. And Grant, I believe we have questions, lots of questions. So are you ready for that?
You know what? I'm almost ready for anything.
Okay, with this experience that you have, you can be ready for everything.
Right.
So there is one question about in the beginning, you spoke about C of familiarity. Can you please elaborate more? Because some listeners would like to listen to see this idea better. C of familiarity.
Sure. So when you look out, and I don't know if the mix is this is agencies or this is in-house folks, but look, competition. If you're an agency, you're doing a competitive analysis, or you're an in-house and you're looking at your competition, we looked out and we saw everyone looked the same. So we said we should be different, because we want to stand out. We want to be different. We want to be innovative. And what we didn't realize is that people, the general population of home searchers, were really familiar with having a search bar. They were really familiar with just typing in an address and getting back the information on a home, or typing in a city and getting back search results. And so we had actually changed something that made the search experience unfamiliar. So it was a point of friction for users to first off have to relearn something that was really familiar to them. And secondly, it was something that they then had to learn a new interface to get what they wanted. So it was one more step. Now, once again, our limited, very limited testing showed that people really liked it, but in real world usage, people were lost. We had people, as soon as we launched, people saying to us, what happened to your search box? Because they didn't realize this was a new way of searching. So a sea of familiarity is something that makes users comfortable. And so you shouldn't try and break them out of it and confuse them on the first instance of when they reach your site. So that sea of similarity is really about just understanding where a status quo is that works.
Okay, I believe it's sometimes hard to leave this comfort zone. As we always say, you have to leave this comfort zone. Yeah, but maybe not for the users, because it's not comfortable on the website, which is not familiar to you.
That's true. Well, you ask for users' trust, and if you confuse them on the first arrival on a page, or you make it more complex, it can be a challenge. And that's what we found.
Trust important. Okay, thank you. The next question is, what tools did you use for testing?
So we used user testing and in-person questions, but as you can see, the original testing was not robust enough. But we use usertesting.com, which allows you to do panel-based and individual testing and scenario-based testing, so you can step people through things and find out where those sticking points are in real time. And then, like I said, we did in-person stuff where we presented it not just to a group that the agency identified, but also to some internal folks. But the challenge was this implicit bias. When the leadership team really loves something, so the leadership team really loved the innovation, you ask someone that works for you, how is it? And they go, it's really good, because they don't want to, as we can say, piss off the boss. So there was an implicit bias. And I don't know if you know the story, The Emperor Has No Clothes, that I mentioned. The famous story, he's wearing an invisible suit and everyone is saying how wonderful it is, because they want to, it's implicit bias. They want to make sure he feels special. And that's what we found happened. And, since then we asked for transparency and honesty, and there is no consequence if you don't agree what the leadership team says. So I think that was the challenge with the testing tools we used. We just didn't do enough testing.
Okay, thank you. The next question, sure. So the next question would be about Google structured data tool. What do you think about that? And should you check pages if they pass the test tool? Thank you.
Well, as an SEO guy, 100% structured data is not just the future, it's the current status quo. So that's one of the other things that when you do competitive analysis, you can see in our space, a lot of people are using structured data such as offers, property, address. They're using structured data. So I would say 100% structured data is key. Now, Google won't always show a structured result in search results, but for listings of homes for a while they did. And so you could see 8 to 10 listings of homes as a featured snippet in Google search results. So to answer the question really simply, structured data is really key to any kind of website today, even if it's as simple as the company and information on the company. I think you should have structured data 100%. And for Google, at some point, they're just going to suck your site in through structured data. So why not make it easy for them so they can present you in their search results? So 100% structured data, schema, brilliant.
Okay, cool. 2 more questions to go. These are the questions that we ask to each of our speakers, just to see how different the opinions are. So the first question is, if there is, okay, so let's say the background color, does it affect the conversion of an online store? Yes or no, to your opinion?
Say that one more time, please, Sophia.
Sure. Does the background color affect the conversion of an online store?
Does the background color affect the conversion? Everything affects the conversion in an online store. So I would say it can, yes.
Okay, so simple as it is, yes. Okay, and the last question. Imagine that your website has a high bounce rate. What do you do to solve the situation?
So depending on the page, as an SEO guy, I have to say it depends. But depending on the page, so is it a path to conversion? Number one. Is it just a content page? Number two. Is it something that's a key money page for me? So something that a conversion actually happens on. So in the homes.com case, most people land on an internal page, normally a search result. So a search result, if we see a high bounce rate, for us, it's an indicator of either the intent was not met by the content, which means our listings aren't relevant for that particular region or location. There isn't enough inventory, or there might not be the right style or anything else for a particular user. So the first thing we do, we see if we're missing out on inventory, if there's an error or an issue on the page. So we try and, by inventory, I mean content. We try and improve the content on a page, number one, to try and match the user intent to the content we have, number one. Number two, if it's just a content page like a blog post, we tend to see can we improve the copy to answer the intent better. So obviously we can see in Google Search Console what keywords are hitting what page. And so we look at certain pages, we look at the queries that are hitting that page, and we go, are we truly satisfying the user? Are we answering the question? Are we living the intent to content mantra? And we try and improve it from that standpoint. So that being said, bounce rate is not a brilliant metric. I don't love bounce rate as a metric. So I'd say for us, it's more like engagement. So does someone stick around on the page, and do they click through to other pages is more for us now. You can call it bounce rate, but for us, is do people engage, and do people engage with multiple pages?
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your ideas and for this wonderful presentation and for answering the questions. Grant, that was really nice to meet you here. And hopefully there will be more opportunities for us to invite you to the conferences.
Sounds good. Thanks again. Thanks everyone for attending. Appreciate it. And you can reach out for me. Actually, if anyone wants to connect with me on Twitter, it's at Simonet, and that's SIMMONET. I had a last slide that had it on, but I'm only out of it. So anyway, SIMMONET. See you guys. Take care.
Thank you.